welcome. Fire Mountain, episode 41. We got some special guests today. Dom is not around. I know a lot of you out there are going, cool, viewership about to go up, knowledge about to increase, facts about to go through the roof, conspiracies, there may be none. But I'm excited. In the studio for Fire Mountain today, we have got Louise Bird and JJ Bird.
Wow.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Is it because like two birds for the price of one? Is that what we've done here?
Yeah.
We've taken
Nice.
senior bird out and we've replaced it
I'm
with...
surprised you went two birds for the price of one when you could have gone two birds, one stone.
Yeah, Dom's out the
yeah,
back with
you've
a
done that.
with a
But-
head cracked open.
Yeah. Well, we'd only say no.
That's grim.
So there was something in the news actually this week which made me think of Dom. There's a guy who's all into conspiracy theory, and he promoted a conspiracy about a shooting that happened in America and said it was all faked. And they've literally, he had a
Alex Jones, right?
Yeah, Alex Jones. So he just
Yeah.
had $45 million
Yeah.
suit against him, which the people who were suing him won. And
Wow.
now he's just had $954 million
Not a great week.
suit against him that he's just lost. So he has to pay nearly $1
Oh
billion
my gosh.
dollars for
What?
promoting conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Louise, you're in danger. You
What?
are in
I'm
You are.
literally
trouble.
scared. Oh my gosh, I've not got that kind of money. Dom, stop it. What are you doing? We're at risk.
Yeah.
What?
Dom invest in crypto, he'll be fine.
Yeah, crypto. That's
Yeah,
where
that's
it's
going. Yeah.
That's craziness. Why would he do that? Why did he do that?
Because he's
'Cause he's
nuts.
unhinged?
I don't know. Because he's nuts.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got quite the rep at this point. He's quite crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I've never listened to any of his stuff, but it just made me chuckle because I thought, Dom, you're one Fire Mountain away from $1 billion lawsuit.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the church has got insurance, right? We've got like some kind of lawyer's insurance.
We do, but I don't know if it'll stretch to £1 billion. So it made me chuckle.
My days.
So obviously, Fire Mountain, the new format. So we're going to try to do this in half an hour. Come on, we know that's never going to happen, but we'll give it our best.
Believe in us. I believe in us. Come on.
And obviously, one of the things we want to jump into, so we've kind of been tracking a bit, which is quite different for Fire Mountain, looking at stuff that's also kind of been spoken about Sunday morning through the Dream Builder series. And if you haven't seen any of it, you should watch it. You can
Yeah.
see all the Sunday lives there on the YouTube channel, or watch Fire Mountain and get even a better version
Oh,
of
wow,
what
there
there
we
is.
go.
Yeah, don't
I
do
said
that.
with zero confidence.
But Louise, you're obviously preaching about something, like you've been preaching this Sunday about something that's really interesting. And I thought
Yeah.
there are a couple of conversations I want to unpick coming out of it, which is going to be fun.
I'm so scared.
and-
so scared.
And JJ's here because we just needed someone on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I was kicking around. They were like, "Yeah, sit down."
He's
Yeah.
free, isn't he? It's
Yeah.
free
Cool.
service.
Yeah, it's true. He was here. Yeah,
Where's
free
it free?
service.
He's a Moreland student. You can just tell him what to do.
Okay, I'm only finding out it's free now. Okay.
Yeah, well,
Should have looked at that contract a bit closer.
contract.
God. Love it.
Yeah, I like how you think there's a contract.
Yeah.
Cool. So I have an opening question, and what I'm going to do is just do a gentle fade out of the music.
Nice.
Ooh, got
Seamless.
serious
I
quick.
like that.
Nice.
Du-du-du-du-du-dum.
Got really serious quick. Actually, we
Yeah.
should get that. That'd
Yeah,
be
that would
epic. Right down at the last change. Ooh,
It does. We need a spotlight here.
phone a friend. Okay, so this is taking a turn. So obviously, Louise, you've been speaking about service
Yeah.
and the importance of service,
Yeah,
kind
right.
of in the life of the church.
Correct.
But the reality is, most people don't serve,
Ah.
and their Christian faith seems to be okay. Like, is service actually that important?
Oh, I see where you're headed with it. I guess what's your measure of good, ultimately? Like you say, their faith is good, their relationship with God. I guess that's the heart of it. Is what's the measure though? How are you
Okay.
measuring whether their faith is good? I don't think it can be good. No, I don't think it can be in a good place if they're not finding some way to outlet it. I think this faith and deeds thing is really closely connected. And if we try and separate those two out, I'm not sure whether it's possible. Some people, you're right, some people make it look like their faith is good, though. And I think that's the challenge, that maybe people think their faith is in a good place, even though they're not pouring out. And it's helping people to try to understand that your faith could be in a better place. If you think your faith is okay now, imagine what it would be like if you poured tea. Or did something slightly more connected to the gospel.
Poured tea. Imagine what it would be if
Can you imagine?
So, how do you measure in what you're saying the fine line, and you get this often if you're in church, and all of us probably would have said it. Oh, that just sounds really legalistic. I had this a while ago. I was speaking about the discipline of tithe, and someone said, "You're just talking about legalism," and it's kind of like, maybe I am actually, and I'm quite comfortable with that. Really, I don't really know. Like, yeah, it's a discipline. How do you measure the fact of should service be driven out of the heart? So we just had the Queen.
Oh, good and faithful servant, the Queen.
Who was faithfully serving.
Correct.
Out of duty. So as Christians, do we go out of duty, or should we be doing that out of our heart? And if it is only duty, is it just legalism? Like, how do we bridge or meter that?
Do you have any thoughts on that, Jace?
Because Louise doesn't.
Because I'm going to go by what you say and not.
I tell you what, I really enjoyed when Richard said, their faith seems pretty good, and then you just go, yeah, but what is good? What does that even mean? I just like that. That tickled me.
So that's where that basically you're all like, let's answer the question with the question.
Yeah, but what do we mean by
what
good?
Do I mean?
Good.
What's the measure of that?
Who is this Queen
Yeah.
you referred to?
No, it's a good question about I've seen it quite a lot in my friendship circles, and people that not specifically with service, but things like I guess being faithful in your walk as a disciple. Like people say, oh, it's legalistic to think, oh, you need to do this every day, or I need to serve every week. I think it's just a complete swing and a miss, like that mindset, because I guess if we've got the Holy Spirit in us, if we've got actually God in us, there's got to be an overflow of that. What does that actually look like? And if we start saying, okay, well, maybe it looks like this, we're just completely shutting down the work of the Holy Spirit. If we say, oh, that must be legalism, if we're putting a pin on it, even.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I think it's good. I think a lot of the times when people say like that's legalism, you know, it's all about the Holy Spirit. It makes people feel like to be filled with the Holy Spirit means you don't have any rules, you don't have any boundaries, and that's not what being filled with the Holy Spirit looks like. It doesn't take away responsibility. And I think oftentimes when we say like, oh, I just go by what the Spirit says, it's almost a way of shirking responsibility. Actually, the Holy Spirit would, generally speaking, ask you to do more, ask you to give more, ask you to pour out more, ask you to be less of yourself and more of Him. It's never this less version. If you're going to go down the route of, that's legalism, I'm going to go for the Spirit, well, then you're probably picking the harder version then, because the Holy Spirit will always prompt you to do more. I know that there are moments where if I've said in the morning, God, you know, I hand this day over to you, Jesus, and if there's anybody that you want me to speak to about you today, anybody that you want, any pictures that you want me to have, any prompts that you want me to give, and I will be faithful, even though it will be terrifying, because no doubt it's always weird going up to a stranger and doing anything, isn't it? But I will do it. I will step out and I will do it. And on those moments where I've lent into the Holy Spirit, he's packed my day with, right, go say this to this person, or, you know, see that person, go and give, or actually put that down and go and play with your kids, even though that game looks lame and boring and there's 1,000 other things to do. Like, invest your time in these ways. When I hand my daytime hours over to the Holy Spirit, He fills them. Whereas though if you go down the legalism route, you serve once a week on a rota, done. Yeah. And it reduces it to that. So I don't think choosing the Holy Spirit's version of anything is the easier way. And for sure, I promote that path. Go Holy Spirit. But be prepared that it's going to stretch you in ways that maybe you don't realize that it's going to stretch you. It's not the easiest route. So
do you think like there is a fixed amount of service people should do? Like, is there a line? Do we kind of just keep encouraging, serve more till they can't kind of cope with everything? And till they're broken.
Till they're bleeding.
People.
Yes.
Welcome to Russian version of Fire Mountain. I was going to try to do a Russian accent of Fire Mountain. I could not.
Fire Mountain.
That doesn't sound Russian. That doesn't sound Russian at all.
Welcome to the Russian Fire Mountain.
Nah, it's become a racist Fire Mountain now. I don't know what else to tell you. Thanks so much, Louise.
I tried.
£1 billion lawsuit coming your way from Russia. They need the money.
Oh, gosh. Don't.
That's too far, isn't it? It's too. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. So, like, what is too much? Like, is there a thing as too much service?
Yeah, I think. Well, do you? What do you think, Jace?
So, I grew up in a household that would... what
What's
do we
the
mean
measure
by
of
that? I grew up in a household that was very much... no excuses. You know, you serve, and if you're around and you serve like that, it's like the idea that you serve and you encounter God. Those two things weren't disconnected.
Right.
It wasn't like you serve and that means you're giving out and can't be fed. I also think often we see the Sunday morning church as when we're fed, whereas actually I would disagree with that. I'd say that's when we need to be giving.
Okay.
And then morning quiet times is when we're fed. Us with God in prayer. That's when we're fed. That's my sort of view on it, and it's something I saw. I did a block placement this year, and
Well done, JJ.
yeah, I know.
For free, or were you paid?
I
Was it free service or paid service?
no, it was royalties.
Yeah, royal-
Every time I yeah.
For those of you who don't know, block placement is when a student leaves us who's busy serving here and goes and serves somewhere else
Yes,
to
they love it.
realize how much better things are somewhere else.
Yeah, they love it. It's great. But what I saw was people, especially the church leaders, they would have these sort of extreme schedules that like we would see as, oh, you can't maintain that. I saw especially Pastor Steve Uppel, who's actually done stuff at Stunny Hill in the past.
Yeah.
I saw he has this sort of crazy schedule. He's constantly busy giving. And he would spend 2.5 hours in prayer each morning. Like he would get up at ridiculous times to spend that time in prayer. And what I saw modelled was, it wasn't that despite his prayer schedule, he could keep up with his other schedule. It was no. Because of his prayer schedule, he could do this crazy thing and keep up with all this stuff he was doing. And so I guess on Sundays, I think it's similar. Like we can give as long as we're making sure that we're disciplined in the week. You know, in terms of making sure that we're spending that time with God and letting Him fill us.
That's good. Before we continue, can I just highlight a very serious point that JJ? Well, I'm sure you've noticed it too. JJ said schedule.
Oh,
and of course, we can't go on. We can't go on without saying it's unfortunately it is.
I did do that.
It is actually schedule.
Schedule.
Just for clarity.
Just for clarity.
Just
I
for
wouldn't want this to go out.
Yeah.
Sorry,
People
when
to
I said
think
schedule,
we're a
we need to
schedule.
clarify.
We're not
I
a schedule
meant
people.
Schedule.
We're a schedule people.
Yeah.
We're not a schedule people,
Yeah.
Jace. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. I love that. I love that idea that actually when you allow God to pour into you, there is a bigger well to draw from when it comes to serving, right? I think the problem when we talk about serving is that we can reduce it to Sunday-orientated roles, like rota-filling roles. And actually, I believe what the Bible's talking about when it talks about service, it's not just talking about doing kids' work or leading worship or this machine that you do over here at the back with the tech. I don't know.
Are you being a DJ now?
I don't know
What's
what it was.
happening?
There's so many lights flashing. It's really off-putting. That's it. DJing. I think we can reduce serving to these roles when actually what we're called is a life of service. It's not that part of it should be that you serve your local church, for sure. But ultimately it's that you are a servant, that you now, your whole, whatever you were pursuing before Jesus is almost irrelevant now. And that actually now it's a life of humility, now it's a life of giving, and it's a life of constantly finding where you can pour out. But within that, for sure, you can't keep pouring out without having God pour in. And I do think that there are some people, they are the minority, but there are some people, I've spoken to one this week at Sunny Hill actually, because her name appears on absolutely every team. And like, that's phenomenal that she loves to serve. Is it that she loves to serve, or is it that she can't say no? Yeah. And that actually there are other areas of her life that need attention because she's literally back to back rotoring herself through the week. Actually, is that a fair capacity to put on someone when actually it's not just about being on a rota? There are other areas of your life that you can pour out from that don't include being on a team or being in, I don't know, setting something up and packing something down. And it's a hard line to walk, that discipleship line.
So I think that you there was something I was busy thinking about while you were talking and kind of going, how do you deal with people who need to be needed? So service is a great way to fulfill the need to be needed.
Right.
Look, everybody needs me, and now I have some kind of a fulfillment, which feels quite counter to maturing or growing in the faith.
Yeah,
so kind of is how do we deal that? And also with people who literally, I mean, the fundamental problem with people who always say yes is that they can't let their no be no. It's why they always say yes. So again, it feels like these deeper discipleship problems, but which kind of get translated into a discipleship solution, which is service, which for a lot of other issues, if you're selfish, serve. If you're struggling with pride, serve. And serve on a team where it's impossible to be prideful, carrying around speakers. There's no way you go, woo, look at me, amazing.
I'm so good.
Clean the toilets. If you find humble service, there are. So it feels like there is this discipleship thing that exists that can really help, but on the other side can just feed straight into some real struggle that people have that we kind of maybe overlook because they're serving.
Right.
How do you deal with that? And even, does that even exist? It's just in my head.
Yeah, gosh, that's really hard. And that's been bubbling around my head this week as well, in terms of just trying to make sure that people are serving for the right reasons, people are giving for the right reasons. So bringing some teaching, bringing some support.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get into serving for the wrong reasons. But then through serving, find themselves doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So this week I've been speaking to a lot of the people who serve on a rota at Sunny Hill and asking them why they serve. Why did they get into serving? Why do they still serve? What are they finding in this pouring out journey that they're on? And so many people said, I started serving because I wanted to meet people. And that's a fine reason to serve. You want to meet people, that's great. It's not the core of, it's not because I want to love Jesus more, which ultimately is, I guess, the reason why we as Christians should do anything, but it's somewhere to start. And they've started in this place of saying, I wanted to get to know people. And actually what I found instead is that God's using me. And that feels amazing to step out in God by doing something small and what I thought would be quite insignificant has actually created this whole different pathway for me. And I'm excited to be part of it because I can tangibly see God out working through my life. So I think sometimes the reason why we get into serving isn't always the A-grade reason. But then hopefully this model of togetherness, this model of all of us going somewhere together, I don't know, iron sharpening iron removes those edges and hopefully streamlines people towards the focus. But I do think a lot of it is just vision setting, vision casting as leaders, just being sure to remind people the real reason they serve, because it can default back to, I don't want to serve on that team because so-and-so's not on it. And that's really why I'm in it. It's because I want to be with them. And ultimately, there are better reasons to serve, and it's our job as leaders to reveal those to people.
That's why my teams are so big.
Just so popular, Richard.
It's
Isn't it just you?
It's literally heartbreaking.
No.
Even at times, it's not even me. Even I can't be bothered to show up.
Oh, don't. You're so good, Richard. You do yourself on this service.
So basically, Louise, what I'm hearing you say from all of that is people are looking for somebody else. Basically, it's a love connection. Service, you're looking for someone, you serve, you find someone, or you go to Morelands. JJ, any thoughts about this? No.
That happened.
So, I think it's great. I think the iron sharpening iron thing is such a great thought. But how do you... So being in church for a while...
Yeah.
Should anybody be able to serve? Should anybody be able to serve anywhere? Should non-Christians be able to serve across the church? If we see these things as spiritual gifts at work in, how are you drawing is there a line? We seem comfortable for a non-Christian to carry the speakers, but probably less comfortable for them to play bass in the band.
Yeah.
Is there a line where we think, oh, actually this goes over, and should there even be a line, or should we just go, oh, it's all open to anybody? I don't know.
You're nodding. What are you
go for it, JJ. You looked like you had something to say.
You did, didn't he?
Yeah.
I got that bit.
Well,
What is good?
Yeah. What? Obviously, I've taken on some responsibility this year in terms of youth work, and there's a few teams that we're building up, and I've definitely got convictions around who I would and would not have on team, especially when it comes to teaching and.
Sorry, I'm really busy though.
And being around young people. Yeah, sorry, Richard. Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't have I'm just straight. I wouldn't have a non-Christian serving on a youth team or.
So how did you land on that? And what's some of your thinking around it, so we can then tell you why you're wrong?
Go on.
No.
Because everything we do is to disciple these young people, to point them to Jesus. And if someone on team has not bought into that vision, then it's not going to work. It's not a good fit.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Do you have different thoughts on that, though, Richard?
Well,
You're firing a lot of questions this way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, woo, push it back.
I think I do have different thoughts. I think anything that is profile, in terms of upfront profile, so that would be, and it's really hard because I don't want to say positions of significance because it's not what I mean, because I honestly do believe that the person who's pouring tea is as significant as the person who's preaching. I don't see a distinction in outflow of gift. And if they're operating in the right sphere, the outwork of God will not only benefit his people, but will be powerful. And if they're operating in the wrong sphere, pouring of tea can be horrendous, as so can the preaching. So I feel like the measures are the same. But I do think that just how society is structured, there is something different between people who are platformed and people who are behind the scenes. And so I think that there is more room for character development, faith development, and even finding faith behind the scenes than the platform. Like I think oftentimes we put people onto platform long before their character should allow them to have that platform. And that's why we see a lot of the issues. And in South Africa there was a really big church, and they used to have paid session musicians for their worship, of which none of them were Christians. Musically,
phenomenal.
Honestly, best worship I've ever heard. But actual experientially powerful, just it wasn't. And I think that there's something in that where I go, these people who are platformed, their character and faith isn't what it needs to be yet for them to hold the platform, which kind of feels to me also the tension in service. Because what do you do when you could have 50 people who are good but not quite ready for the service areas that need to be served in? Do you just shove them in there and hope for the best? Do you go, those areas will suffer? But I do think that if I would be quite comfortable, probably, unlike JJ, and I wouldn't massively rail against what JJ's saying, because I really understand the discipleship side of it, and I think he's right, is if I had a non-Christian guy busy doing the tech, it wouldn't bother me. I probably would be a lot more focused in conversation with that person, making sure that they were firstly sympathetic to the faith and what we're doing and not anti it, but also to drive conversation forward. So I know like New Wine, probably 70% of the guys who do tech at New Wine have no faith at all. They're an outsourced company that comes in to run the venues. They aren't Christians, and I've spent quite a bit of time at New Wine chatting with them and hanging out with them. They're great people, but they don't have faith in any way. So I probably think there's more, for me, there's always more scope in the background for those kinds of people, but anything that really is platforming and putting people into the public sphere, it feels like should be a different measure. And I actually think even if they're Christians, there should still be a different measure, which is kind of the character of the person, because you don't develop your character on the platform.
No.
You don't. You have to have it to go on the platform, and if you don't, you shouldn't. So I probably think a bit different.
I've got another question then.
Yeah.
So say if someone is serving in a role that probably has like a ministry outlet area, it's not process orientated, it is sort of profile orientated, an upfront position. If they then don't have the faith, maybe they hit dip in the road, and should they withdraw from serving? Would you say?
Yeah, so I probably revealed too much about myself now. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that what we don't model well at church is bringing people in and out of position. And I think it's actually really important. I think that there are seasons when you have to pull people out and go, actually, for the next season, we're pulling you out for these reasons. Now, I don't think publicly we need to stand up and go, because Joan did this, this, and this, we've decided to remove her from singing in the worship.
Yeah.
What I do think is that the role of leaders is to look and go with discernment and with pastoral kind of grace, is to go, actually, the best place for you to be right now is not to be serving in this capacity at this place or, in this level, and to then pull them out. And hopefully through that, those people will grow, get their capacity, their character will increase, and they'll once again be able to be brought back in. Sometimes, in my experience, it goes the other way.
Right.
you pull them off, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, the only reason you were still even pretending to have something was because it gave you this platform.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm thinking, well, I'd rather you not be on the platform and deal with all of the struggle that will bring than have you on it. So
Yeah.
I definitely think church shouldn't be scared to pull people on and off as needs be, but that should be done well with proper conversation.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to do it well.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
it can really damage someone when someone pulls them out of position. It's so important though, like we're saying, like the integrity of the church.
Yeah.
As a body of people pulling together to achieve one goal, we need to almost make sure we're all in step. The Bible talks about keeping in step with the Spirit. We all need to keep in step, don't we? And so often there's maybe people losing their step, and we're just busy ploughing on, getting the job done. There's stuff to do, so we'll crack on. And it is about this every body ministry, isn't it? Everybody involved and everybody just checking that everybody's still with us and holding each other to account, isn't it? I think there's probably not a lot of that.
I was thinking about this the other day, having those good measures in place. I was going, what happens if next Sunday at Sunday Hill we stood up and we said, look, if you've got a prophetic word, you can bring it. But if this prophetic word doesn't prove to be true, we're going to take you outside into the parking lot, and we are literally going to throw stones on your head.
Oh my days.
I wonder if we'd have a lot less prophetic words.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Okay. Yeah.
But the prophetic words you do get, there's real conviction behind them.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Like there is something in that measure that always fascinated me. Where
Or
I'm
someone
thinking,
just really doesn't care.
or someone's just like, I'm looking for a way out. I know, Jim. There's just something in that measure, and I don't think we should stone people before everyone kicks off, all 7 of the viewers out there. What I do think, though, is there should be some kind of expectation of that level of this is of real importance. That we believe there's real power that unfolds in these places and what happens, and so there will be real consequence that has to come from that. I also think that, and it's really hard because service is one of the places that always lacks people. Like it always needs more.
Always.
So you rush as quickly as you can to fill it, where actually it's, and I don't really know how you do it well. Like I always think, you know that thing where they pull straws. I can't think of the story now.
Draw straws?
Where they draw straws, and it's like, okay, cool, you're the person now because you drew the right
drew the
straw, like
straw,
that faith thing. And it's like, sometimes, like I think we go really quickly into putting people in
Yeah.
position and then have to spend ages trying to get them out
Yes.
or fix them,
Yes.
which is really time consuming.
Yeah.
But on the other side is, I think they just drew straws and kind of like, well,
Yeah.
you must be the one God said, so cool,
true.
go get on and do it. Like, I don't really know. I don't know where I'm going with that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thinking about what you said about people who do behind the scenes roles. I guess it's worth asking whether you think that there are, because we say we believe that all roles are an equal sort of outflowing of gifting, outflow of the Spirit. But I guess it sounds like you could be saying that you don't need the Spirit to do these behind the scenes roles.
Yeah.
or at least we don't need to be relying on the Spirit for these behind the scenes roles.
I think that is 100% valid question. I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay.
I do think that they are deeply spiritual, but I also think that because they're not profiled, it allows for different character and even for a faith journey to exist inside of it. And I can't really give you a lot of adequate, well thought out reason for that. It's just, it's something I just feel I don't even have a good biblical like basis that I could drop it in. I could probably like try and scrounge one up and fake it.
Theology for that.
Like, but it would just be me faking it.
Yeah. Okay.
I could probably make a more active theology to speak against what I'm saying, which is problematic. Let's be honest. So here we
I
are.
can prove myself wrong.
Yeah.
But-
That's
easy.
helpful.
But
Easy.
what
Watch this.
I just do think that I just think if it's not upfront, I'm way more comfortable to utilize people who are still developing their character, and I'm way more comfortable to use people who don't yet have faith. And actually, some of the greatest servers I've probably known in church have been people without faith.
Right. Yeah.
But some of the most problematic servers I've known in church have been people without faith who were put into more prominent or upfront
Right.
role. because they carried a skill in an area. And I've seen that. I've seen people who led services because they carry a skill. They're phenomenal communicators, and they are. And the communication of that service was phenomenal. And the power of that service was pointless because it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, you don't have the character to do what needs to happen right now. You don't have the faith. But would I put them on answering the telephones in an office if they volunteered and said, I've got, yeah, 100%. Because I think that they would be really articulate, clear, help people understand what's going on. So, great question. I don't know, JJ.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that is a good question. I think it's hard because one of the famous statistics for church volunteering is you have 20% of the church doing 80% of the work. I think probably everybody knows that statistic. And that's a general statistic across kind of churches worldwide, as far as I know. It doesn't matter how many more volunteers you grow. And that's the weird thing about churches. You add more volunteers, but that also allows an extension of work to happen, which then creates more positions available, which then, and we seem to have this ability that as we add more, we extend more, and as we add more, extend more, and we always then need more. Yeah. And I guess there is this line. We have a special name for the line, but there is a line that we have to like.
What would that name be?
What is that?
What does that name? What does that name?
I'm going to say the name of the line.
What is that name?
We have a line.
We have a line. We call it the crap line.
Yeah, we do.
That's what we call it. It's fine, Mountain. You say anything you like, yeah.
Okay. So we have a line, and that's with everything, though, isn't it? Like, we have a line of expectation. We pursue excellence. Like, that's one of our vows. We pursue it. We aim for excellence. We want excellence in our heart.
We really want to emphasize the pursue part of that.
For sure. We pursue it because, my goodness, we don't always land it.
No?
But we have a heart that wants to produce excellence to glorify God. Yeah. But at the same time, we're aware that we can work with what we've got. And oftentimes that doesn't mean that we're right. We want grade 8 musicians, Holy Spirit filled, ex-leaders, missionaries. That's all we're looking for. Ultimately, that's not what the church looks like. The church is a whole bunch of broken people in different stages of their journey, trying to figure it out, trying to go further in God. And oftentimes serving is the way to go further in God. So to rule out a whole bunch of people because they're not fitting a standard is unfair, because actually it might be the role of service that actually brings them to that maturity, brings them to that iron sharpening iron position that they wouldn't have otherwise. So oftentimes we have to lower the bar of expectation. We have to lower the crap line, and maybe not have the excellence that we're hoping for, in the hope that actually we build something that's altogether a little bit more beautiful, a little bit more like the church, flawed and working hard. But it's a challenge, like you say. You want it to be this thing that God is proud of. You want God to look at the church and go, yes, that's the bride I died for. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a bit gnarly around the edges. But the hope is that as people serve, they grow.
It's great.
It's challenging.
JJ, any last thoughts? Because we've hit half an hour. Boom.
Bam!
Oh, wow.
That was quick.
Already.
That went quick.
Any final thoughts? What is good?
Yeah, what is good?
What is
Such a good question. What is a good question?
What is a good question?
Something that I like that we do here is that seems always willing to sacrifice the crap line for the next generation. Always. They did it with me for a long time and still do a lot of the time.
Where's this going, JJ?
Wait, this is past tense? It feels very present.
Yeah, it feels quite present. No, I think. I guess there's excellence. Excellence is a great value, and I'm so glad we have it. And it's the heart behind it, in terms of us wanting to please God and honor God, and in how we do things. But more important is the heart, and I think that's really important that we do that. Yeah,
great.
An excellent heart.
Any final thoughts, Louise?
Serve. Absolutely serve. Whether that starts with a rota, populate that rota, but it doesn't need to stop there. Don't let the word service trick you to thinking it's a place on a rota. It is not. It is a lifestyle of being ready at any moment to give to God what is ultimately his anyway. A life of service.
Great. That's a great place to end it. Fire Mountain, episode 41. Make sure you serve. If you don't have faith, not on the youth team.
Yeah, no.
You're not welcome here. You shall not pass.